Here's what's coming up on today's show.
But these are the things that I think personally you should be thinking of as you invest for growth in the future, not just saying, okay, I'm going to buy a little bit of everything.
Welcome to the How Money Works podcast with Craig and Jennifer Moser of Maestro Wealth Advisors, serving you throughout the Triad of North Carolina for more than 30 years.
Time once again for another edition of How Money Works with Craig and Jennifer Moser from Maestro Wealth Advisors, serving you here in the Triad. Get yourself on the calendar for your consultation and conversation about your retirement journey. 336-448-1086. That's 336-448-1086 to get started today with the team. Again, 336-448-1086, or visit them online at maestrowealth.com. That is maestrowealth.com. Got a great show lined up. We're going to take some email questions to start the program and then talk about some things that are harder than it looks in the financial services world. But first, what's going on, guys? How you doing, Jen?
Doing great. I'm trying to think if there's anything new that's going on. Our barn is being built, so we're excited about that and being able to use it.
You got a barn? That's
right.
Yeah.
And I'm drinking Rise coffee, which kind of smells like an old dirty dog a little bit.
You know
Is that
coffee,
mushroom
it's
stuff?
mushroom.
It's the mushroom stuff.
Yeah, okay.
You know, it kind of makes you
so
feel
your
okay.
financial advisor is taking mushrooms.
That's right. Nothing to worry about here, folks.
I've heard it's a big trend. So, I mean, does it work? Do you feel pretty good?
Yeah, it makes you feel better.
But do you like it? I mean, seriously.
Other than a smell, apparently.
I don't know if I love the taste, but it's not repulsive.
Oh, that's really
Well, that's good when you're drinking something, yeah.
So our son has this, was it a cappuccino? It's a $500 machine.
Yeah.
Wow.
That, and so he goes, I'm not going to lie, this stuff tastes really good compared to my stuff.
I'm a get
Big
it out of the
pot.
drip coffee maker, the
might have
cheapest
some
thing I can
grounds
find.
on the bottom.
Yeah. You've had the thing since the turn of the century.
Yeah.
that one.
Well, I mean, yeah. Anytime anybody who's been in the service at all definitely can drink sludge.
Well, thank you very much.
That's why I do not like coffee.
Yeah. So exactly. Well, listen. Let's get into some email questions this week, as we're starting to do here on the program. And we got a question from Alex in Colfax. Going to start things off here. Alex says, "I want to move to a state with different weather." Really? What's wrong with? I'm not sure.
Alaska.
Right? I'm slowly starting to research the process and considering my options. How important will it be to find a new financial advisor in my home state as opposed to keeping my current one? It's got to be the hurricanes or the heat. I don't know, one of the two. But
That's
anyway.
probably it.
So, Alex, I got to tell you, kind of in a fun way, if you are leaving North Carolina, then stay with your advisor, especially if it's Maestro. But if you're coming to North Carolina, then
Get rid of that
Yeah,
bum.
get rid of that bum. But I mean, seriously though, so it really depends upon you and how comfortable you are with having remote conversations with your advisor. I mean, technology is phenomenal these days with Zooms and Teams and all that. And as long as you continue that great communication and you have really gelled with that advisor, there's really not a whole lot of reason to change and what you're going to get.
We have clients, maybe they were here and they moved. We have clients that moved to Pennsylvania, Colorado, Texas, everywhere. And as Jennifer said, if they've already done the work, if you have a history with them, which you like, there's the only disadvantage is you might not be able to roll into their office.
Right.
Very often.
Right.
Now, if you're a big enough client, they'll come to you. But
Well, when you come back for some good pulled pork, you can stop in.
So really, and again, one other thing, Alex, is how are you invested? I mean, if you pull up shop and go to a different advisor, I'm sure that other advisor is going to have a different philosophy, things that they want to invest and do and change. So just be aware of that you're dealing with an individual that has a particular concept and a plan that you're following. And if you up and change, that might change as well. So words of advice.
So question for you guys. So working with somebody in another state, do you guys have to get licenses in different states, or how does that
Yes.
work?
It depends. If you're doing a broker commission-based product like insurance or could be annuities or life insurance, or you've got a brokerage product, you will have to get licensed in that state, but that's no big deal for that advisor to do. If it's advisory business, probably not. You're probably covered. under de minimis rules. So,
Okay. So that's
the
something
only thing
Alex
would
should
be
ask,
really,
though.
Yeah, I would ask that.
Yeah.
Well, and an advisor, if they're worth their salt, they're going to say, I can or cannot, handle this account and do what I need to do.
Gotcha. Okay.
So.
All right. Well, there you go, Alex. So I'm not sure why you're leaving the great state of North Carolina, but that's
It might
okay.
not be.
Colfax is great.
we all got our reasons. So thank you so much for the question. We certainly appreciate it. If you're in a similar situation or you need some help, reach out to the team at 336-448-1086. That's 336-448-1086. And drop us a line at maestrowealth.com. That's maestrowealth.com. All right, let's see if we can help out Val. Val is in Moxville. And Val says, my 96-year-old mother passed away last summer. Sorry to hear that, Val. Mm-hmm. I'm finally getting her house and on the market after getting everything all cleared out. My siblings live out of state and haven't been part of the process of going through everything like I am. After the sale of the house, am I owed some sort of stipend for all the extra effort I'm putting in versus my siblings, or do I have to split it evenly? And also, what about taxes? So, interesting question. Are you, as an executor, are you entitled to extra maybe, or how does that work?
And that's the question is, are you doing this out of the goodness of your heart because your siblings can't do it and you're physically here, or do you have that official role also as executrix of the estate?
So the rules.
Aha.
In North Carolina, executor fees are up to the clerk of superior court, but should not exceed 5%. I looked that up for you, by the way, while you were doing that on my phone. Other states can use reasonable compensation determined by the probate court. So it seems like one person does more work than the other. But like with your family, Jennifer, when your mom passed away, you did more than your brothers did, but they did participate and help. So
to their capacity.
Yeah,
right?
But they were out of state, a similar situation.
And if you are going to receive a fee, that would be a taxable
income.
Income. So you charge something to the estate to compensate you, and then you're going to be paying taxes on that. So it really depends upon how you feel about that. And so let's talk a little bit really about
on
the
taxation.
Split. Okay.
Well, let's do the split first. The legal documents. I'm assuming you have a will. I'm assuming you're either the executor or a trustee of a trust. But there's a written set of rules. It says, upon my death, distribute this in such a percentage. So the distribution stuff, you're pretty much going to have to follow the rules of the documents that you work through. But if you can charge as an executrix or whatever, that's a different animal. Now, taxes, Jennifer, that's an interesting animal. We just went through this with a couple of people and a couple of little things that you might not know how to do. You want to start?
Well, go ahead. I don't know where you're going
so
to start, and I'll jump in.
let's say that you sell the property. I'm assuming that Mom passed away fairly recently, not too long ago.
Right.
And so you have a value. And one of the things that people don't think to do when Mom and Dad pass away is get an appraisal of the property. But you should.
And the importance of that is you'll get a step up in cost basis. So let's say Mom, she's 96. Let's say she, bought her house 60 some years ago and she bought it for $30,000. And now, crazy real estate the way it is, maybe it's worth $400,000. If she were to have sold that house while she was still living, she would realize a gain from the 30 to the 400 and have to pay capital gains tax
above $250.
Above her exemption of $250 being a single owner. But now that she's passed, and again, I'm really sorry that she's passed. It's hard. I've been through that. You'll get a step up in basis. So now you'll inherit that, or your family will inherit that asset at the $400,000 level and negate any capital gains tax. So you can either sell it at that $400,000, or if you sell it less, you take a capital loss. And it's, even though, let's say you sell it within a year of receiving that asset, it's still a long-term capital gain, which is at a different tax rate, Val.
So probably not going to be a tax, but maybe. We had a situation to where somebody actually used the capital loss, the difference in the appraisal, and what it actually sold for, and they were able to put that on their tax return and carry it forward until they worked it off. So I think the appraisal is very important. But coming back and saying, I can't give you a straight answer. If you want to call us, we can sit down and run through everything and look at the document. But in general terms, you have to decide what it's going to be like with your siblings if you say, I'm going to charge a fee. So that's the hard part to think about and work through. If you did the work, seems like you get a little appreciation. If you guys just don't get along, then try to charge. I don't know. Right. But in general, those are the types of rules that you'll have to look at.
So Alex and Val, thanks for those email questions. And as you're listening today, if something comes up or throughout the week, give us a call or email us with your questions, and we'll bring those to the air for other people, because I'm sure that if you are having those questions, I'm sure other listeners will as well, and it'll be a benefit for them. Our number is 336-448-1086, 336-448-1086, or you can email us those questions at info@maestrowealth.com.
Craig's a financial advisor and certified financial planner, and Jennifer's a financial advisor and certified exit planning advisor with Maestro Wealth Advisors, serving you here in the Triad. And you can get yourself onto the calendar for that complimentary consultation and review at 336-448-1086. Again, 336-448-1086 for that no-cost, no-obligation consultation. 336-448-1086. 1086. You can also visit them online at maestrowealth.com. That's maestrowealth.com, where you can drop a line to the team at info@maestrowealth, or sign up for the newsletter, check out the podcast version of the show, or the YouTube channel as well. So lots of good content there at maestrowealth.com. Guys, we were having a little technical difficulty getting back into the next piece here of the show, where our topic is harder than it looks, and it's like being on the radio is harder than it looks today, apparently. So
Go figure.
Go figure. But we got a good chat about this, because you guys do this every day, right? So it becomes, whatever industry you're in, some things become simple and routine for those who do it every day. For those who do not, right, it can be overwhelming. So let's talk about a few of the pieces. Are these things actually harder than it appears, right? So first one, Social Security. Got to start there, because when to turn it on, well, not necessarily the details, I guess, Craig, but when to turn it on, right, is the big decision. Like, is that harder than it looks for most people? I think it is, because I hear people say all the time, I don't know when the optimal time is.
I think if they either say, I don't know when the optimal time is, or I'm just going to do it early because I can.
They owe
or
me.
I'm going to do it or I'm going to start Social Security as soon as I retire.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of they don't really know that you can go through an analysis to make sure what would be a more optimal time, and how do they generate that income. Craig, you say this all the time. People are used to getting an income, a paycheck at their bank account every single day. When that stops, where's that paycheck? Oh, well, Social Security will give me a paycheck. I'll just flip that switch.
Click.
Gotcha.
So let's talk a little bit and make this maybe less overwhelming.
Well, and I hope I do. First, let me give you my disclaimer. Before you make any Social Security decisions, I recommend that you get an appointment with the Social Security Administration with questions written down to ask.
And we typically are on those conversations as well, because, as you said, Mark, we do this every day, and we ask pertinent questions that may get to the information, and better information than asked by someone who's a novice at this.
So the three ages I hear the most are 62, 67, and 70. And the 67 might be 66 in some months, but you guys know what I'm saying.
And the significance of that is full retirement age.
Yes. So under that age, which would, in my example, be the 62-year-old, you have to watch your income. You can get the check, but if you continue to work. So I hear sometimes, well, I'll just keep working and I'll save the Social Security check. And that works until you earn more than $23,400. Then there becomes a penalty for every $2 that you earn above that number. They deduct $1 from your Social Security check. So just be careful. And then the year before you reach full retirement age, it gets to a different set of rules. So if I mess this up, just understand every time I do Social Security, I just get more frustrated. So $62,120 until the month before you reach full retirement age, and then you can earn a whole bunch that 1 month before. And I'm like, who thinks this stuff up? It's really crazy. But the penalty is what I want to talk about.
Yeah, that's the takeaway here.
Yeah, you will get a penalty if you earn income prior to full retirement age. So you need to understand what you're doing. One interesting thing, fun fact, is that the IRS will refund your penalty amount once you reach full retirement age. Go figure that one.
Yeah.
So again, what we do is get a general strategy in mind. we like for people to delay it if you have the money and it makes sense. So that's not a rule. That's just saying you will make more if you can wait longer on your Social Security check. And we can send you information on this that would allow you to see what the pay raise is every year on a permanent basis by delaying taking that.
So again, the key takeaways here for Social Security, every situation is unique. You can't just say, what's my maximum value of Social Security when I die, because you really need to factor in your other income sources. Are you still working? Do you have other ways to bring that, the retirement income together and look at it as a coordinated effort? And that's, I think, where people get overwhelmed is, I don't know how to do that. And the beauty is you can reach out to us at Maestro Wealth, and that's part of the analysis we do for you, is understanding what your Social Security benefits are in relation to all of your other income so you can make the best decision possible. 336-448-1086. Talk about designing a truly diversified portfolio. That can be overwhelming, but how do we demystify that as well?
Well, most people think it's so much in large cap, mid cap, small cap, so much in international, so much in emerging markets, and so much in intermediate. But you get the idea, a big old fat pie chart. That's not necessarily diversified. It is, but it might be overkill. If you looked at a portfolio like that, you might own, 1,600 different stocks in a portfolio like that if you have mutual funds. So as you look at things, what you've got to understand first is you don't want to have an investment in all of it in one thing. So 2 examples. If you had bought Apple 30 years ago and that's the only thing you owned, you're sitting pretty because it went up like crazy. If you had bought Wachovia stock, not sitting pretty, because it went to $1 and then
Wells Fargo.
Yeah, bought it, and it was terrible for some people that had all their money there. But what you have to do is say, I need, first of all, some exposure to safe assets. So that would be things like money market, fixed interest annuities, CDs. You may not really get a high return, but there's no risk of loss. And if you need the money, it's pretty accessible. Number 2, you need some income generators, a cash flow machine, if you will. That's a combination of things like bonds and dividend-paying stocks and structured notes and real estate that you're buying for the rental income. There will be some appreciation in that type of portfolio, the second part, but the focus is cash flow. And then, you need growth for the third part. So this is really the diversification. You can buy in different areas, but the stocks, you own different stocks. Real estate that you're hoping goes up in value, you're not really focused so much on the payments. Things that can inflate over time, things that will increase in value. So I'll say a bond kind of pays you interest and matures. It might go up a little bit in the interim if they drop interest rates, but really, not that much. So as you look at the 3 components, that's really the diversification that you're going to need. And how much you need in cash flow will dictate how much you need in number 2. How much you need for the future if you're going to live a long time, and then the safe part is the money you'll use right now. So
but let's get real, Craig. I mean, for someone who's working and that's what they do every day, is whether they're, HVAC, they work in an office, they're in the medical facility, they really don't focus on the portfolio. But you as a financial advisor, you've boiled how many different mutual funds and ETFs?
Oh, gosh. I couldn't even begin to say over my career.
So you have boiled those down because you deal with that every day. Just like if you were going to need medicine for something, that nurse or that doctor knows exactly what medicine you need, and you don't have to do that research and analysis.
Right.
So working with a professional can help you create that diversified portfolio. And it's different in the accumulation stage. Like you were saying, the Apple, if you hit a home run with Apple, you're going to think, hot dog, I should stay with Apple in retirement. But that may not be the best thing for that phase of your life when you're going into retirement. Now you've got to take this accumulation and figure out how you're going to create that income flow.
Right. So after income, I was talking about growth. I also want you to think about the future. Think about what's happening. Everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. So how do we get the electric power generation to take care of that? How do we transfer the data, the communication? What kind of technology like a microchip is it going to take to run that? Those are things that are in the future. Look at where money's getting spent now, defense spending. I mean, We're beefing up our military, so somebody makes some money there. Medical innovations, things like this, these are growth areas. So maybe you take some time to look at these. It might take a while for them to go up, but these ideas are essential to the future. If you use the word infrastructure, it might help a lot. But these are the things that I think personally you should be thinking of as you invest for growth in the future, not just saying, okay, I'm going to buy a little bit of everything.
So we're talking about things that may be harder than it looks to do, and things that may be overwhelming to you listening in your financial life. One would be picking funds in your 401k. They have created some ways within the 401k typically to make it a little bit easier for you to pick investments, and that is really if you're not a do-it-yourselfer and you want someone else to do it, they have these target dated funds where they try to switch from heavy in the equities to heavier in the bonds as you mature and approach retirement. So that might be something to think about if you don't want to pick individual mutual funds within that and create that diversification. Just do a target date fund. We're running out of time a little bit, Craig, but what about like doing a 401k rollover? How hard or easy is that?
It can be easy until it's not. So if you do a transfer from a trustee to a trustee, meaning you went from Fidelity to Schwab or something like that directly, you're not going to have any real issues there as long as you set it up correctly. What I mean by set it up correctly is you want to make sure that inside that 401k, you understand how the tax treatment was on each one of those. So if you had some of this money that was Roth 401k and some of it was the pre-tax savings 401k, what you want to make sure of is that you split those two buckets out before you do the transfer and make sure that each pile goes to the correct place. Disaster to try to fix it after the fact.
It is. And one of the common mistakes that we see, and that's why I think it's important to have a financial advisor involved, is a lot of times they'll give you, what is my after-tax amount? And they'll give an amount, I'm just going to say $50,000. But then when you look and you say, what's the cost basis? Well, you put in 23, but it's grown 30, so it's 50 total. So you've got to make sure that you transfer after tax to Roth and earnings and pre-tax to an IRA. That's a little bit of the nuance. And the other thing is, do you have company stock? That could be kind of overwhelming, and something that might be overlooked is if you have low cost basis company stock in your 401k, and there is a right way to do that and a way that it's not so good. Doesn't give as much tax advantage. So there may be other things that you think are harder than it looks, but unfortunately we're out of time, and we'll address those at another show. Hopefully it's giving you some things to think about as you're trying to contemplate these financial decisions in your life. If you do feel overwhelmed, again, that's why we're here doing this show. That's why we come into work every single day at Maestro Wealth Advisors, and our number is 336-448-1086. We'd love to sit down with you and work through your questions and your issues to make sure you have a fulfilling and successful retirement. Our number again, 336-448-1086.
As always, folks, thanks for your time here on How Money Works. Reach out to Craig and Jennifer today and get started with that complimentary consultation, 336-448-1086. We'll see you next time here on How Money Works. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you have any questions about what we've discussed, remember, you can get a complimentary financial review with the team at Maestro Wealth Advisors by calling 336-448-1086 or go online to howmoneyworksradio.com for other great resources and ways to reach the team. You can also check the show notes of today's episode for our contact information as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app so you never miss an episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all the most popular apps. For Craig and Jennifer Moser, I'm Mark Killian. We'll talk to you next time on the How Money Works podcast.
Craig Moser is a financial advisor and certified financial planner. Securities offered through Avantax Investment Services, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through Avantax Affiliated Insurance Agency.